Hello, everyone, and welcome to Writers Drinking Coffee. This is a podcast where writers sit around drinking tasty beverages to talk about writing, publishing, and the whole creative process. There may be rants and raves and opinions that do not agree but are lovingly delivered. We do not censor ourselves, so consider us PG-13. This is episode 218, interview with Dheepa Maturi. Welcome, Dheepa.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Lovely to be here. Can you tell me your pronouns for our future use so I don't mess up?
She, her.
Thank you so much. We are here to celebrate, and I think this is your first novel finished, which is called 108, an eco-thriller.
That's correct. That's correct.
I want to say congratulations. Getting a novel end to end is a very, very big deal. And before that, I was looking on your website. You have poetry. We love poetry.
We love poetry.
I would say poetry is my first love, even though I write essay and a little bit of short fiction and then this work. Poetry is where it all begins for me.
Well, 108, an eco-thriller, I'm thinking of it as a climate change thriller my own self, so the timeliness of this is magnificent. How did you discover that you had a novel in you?
I think this novel was growing in me for a long time. I think there was always a book, but I didn't know the format. I didn't know the characters. It was just sort of this seed. And then as I was learning more about ecology and environment, this was something that interwove with my writing as soon as I made a commitment to writing. And I should say that I started off in actually law and business and sort of detoured into the nonprofit sector. But through that whole arc of my career, I just had this voice in my head that was like, you should be writing, should be writing, should be writing. So about 10 years ago, I said, okay, this is it, now or never, and just made that commitment and said, okay, I'm going to write, I'm going to submit for publication. And mostly started writing about culture and identity, diaspora, and then it just started interweaving very naturally with environmental themes. And it was just becoming part of my work, and that's what led me to the eco-thriller.
Well, I love that you did, and I sort of, in a way, love that the first events that are referred back to all happened in the year 2025, which they refer to, oh yeah, there I was in 2025, so... Really,
Yes.
in your book, you are talking with two kids that had things happen this year. So that's something to think about. It's like for those of you out there that are working on your first magnum opus now, consider if you're in a future, I'm going to be honest and say it's a touch dystopian because, yeah, we have wrecked the planet, but it's not something nobody can see coming here.
For sure. It was definitely meant to be the near future. And I very deliberately chose that because I was getting very concerned that so much of our climate literature, it's a growing area, but it's very dystopian in nature. And dystopian stories are necessary. I think they let us mourn. But I just felt like I needed to put a more hopeful story into the world and to counteract sort of that sense of despair that I felt was growing all around me. And I wanted to show that we do still have time. It's not too late. It's just a matter of willingness. But we've got money, we've got resources, we've got technology, we've got some amazing ingenuity on the planet. It's just a matter of employing it. And I say just, and we know what the challenges are for that. But really, that's what's stopping us.
I want to stop for one moment and back up to something you said, that dystopias help us mourn what's going on. And John and I are making little heart signs in our favor for that because there's somebody had briefly said, oh, science fiction, it writes about the future. I'm like, it really doesn't.
It really doesn't.
Science fiction
It's about right now.
It's about the present in a science,
And it is a literature hope, even if it expresses itself by wearing all black and listening to The Cure.
100%. I think it makes it more palatable because we're thinking we're talking about some faraway time and place. But yeah, it's the here and now. That's definitely intentional, I think, by all of the authors.
And another theme that you have at the beginning and the opening, the center part of it that spoke to me is there are a lot of people in your book that didn't really have the mental and emotional space to forgive each other. And some of it is, so it's the idea that there's a lot of people go through, oh, you betrayed me by not telling me this, you betrayed me by not telling me that. And I wanted to say out there, like, hey, think about if you're listening to this right now, think in your life about the people that maybe need a couple more words or an explanation or hey, I was kind of short the other day. This is what was going on. I'm not looking for forgive, but the understanding of the why, that that is a beautiful thing, and it can be a plot driver in a book. But because I'm pretending your book is absolutely 100% real in every way, about that.
I, that's very fair. I mean, sometimes we can't get to forgiveness, and I mean, we can't force someone to get to forgiveness. We can't even force ourselves to get to forgiveness. But boy, just understanding where someone is coming from, and just what were the reasons, even if they seem crazy, somehow they if they articulate it, then I don't know. Somehow I feel like we take a step forward there. But forgiveness, I think, is all about it's what's the underlying connection, right? I mean, this is the connection that's missing. A lot of times it's because we can't forgive each other, we can't let the past go. And I really wanted to address that in the book.
I did like that, especially I see that with the number of everybody in the book comes with family ties. I mean, which
Mhm.
again is, I think, a really good reminder that, no man is an island unto himself in the, said in other terms, but everyone comes
Yeah.
from somewhere. Everyone has something and a reasons. And a lot of our reasons and a lot of our weirdnesses do come from shit that went down with our family. John isn't quite rolling his eyes, but he can relate. There's shit that rolls down with your family. I had family shit. You have had. Everybody out
Yeah.
there has family shit.
And the nice people call it generational trauma these days. And certainly, this book starts with trauma and with hope. And I have to say, one of the most concrete office scenes to get things rolling that was exciting. But yeah, not just the interconnectedness of nature, but the interconnectedness of family. I love the multidimensionality of your book, and now I have to stop because I'm getting words.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate this. And yes, the fact that everyone has got ties to everybody else is definitely a central message. And I know that Zed is, he's a pretty quintessential bad guy, pretty, quintessentially awful industrialist, but he is connected to people. And as much as he projects all of that onto Athmanji and his pain, I mean, obviously that's what's a major barrier for him in his own life.
But he started with, he also had family problems. I love that you have the
Yes.
overwhelming through it. Your father's never gonna, hug you.
Yeah, that's
Not that that
exactly
reminds
right.
us of anything going on in current events, but yeah, your dad is never going to hug you. Your dad's never going to be proud of you. And
That's right. Those father wounds are so profound. I mean, throughout the world. I mean, maybe throughout history. But he has got a profound father wound, and that's what he's got to grapple with. And he never will, right? He never will want to look inside.
and
Well, at least
it was interesting for me. You made him Croatian, right?
I did. I
Yeah.
did.
It was funny for me because my first husband was Croatian, and there was a
Oh.
rule that he said is like a Croatian boy can do no wrong until his 10th birthday, and then he can do no right until he gets married. In a weird sort of way, that went through me as I was in this book. I'm like, so this is a little boy who never got married, so he never got his mother's approval either. And then his father was always
Right.
mad at him. I'm like, that's hard on the psyche, to constantly be striving for that in your head. And I'm
Absolutely. It's a very tippy platform to be standing on. And so yes, he doesn't quite get that leg up into compassion and kindness because he just can't give it to himself and he never got it from anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, the Zed Kim is, I thought, a beautiful bad guy in its own way. This is a anybody that is currently raging at the multinational, this corporation or that corporation or this oil company or that somebody taking stuff off. I have a whole soapbox I'll do on another thing on British petroleum and British gas, but these are, the you made a faceless large entity and you actually gave it a face, and that was very, it makes it vulnerable in a way. And I'm hoping people will take that to say, you can't just throw up your hands and say, well, that's Google, nothing we can do. Like, wait, no, there is a human being in charge of Google. There's a human being in each of these places. They're humans. And
Exactly, exactly. And it wasn't that was intentional to have this faceless thing eventually have the face, like to connect with the face of Zed. and to show that there's intention behind it and there's a way to make changes. Yes, instead of just something bearing down.
Another thing, I want to say thank you. I went down an entire fun little rat hole on the Mathi Sutra.
Good.
Because you got to understand, for some of us, our first introduction to cultures of the farther east were like, hey, the movie Kama Sutra, lessons in love. So, okay, we got that. So this is Mathi Sutra, and I went down tell me if I mispronounce this ancient mathematician Aryabhata's writing.
Oh, that was an excellent pronunciation. Kudos.
Because it was like, my first thought was 108. I'm like, wait, those are Arabic numerals, weren't they? And so I kind of would start digging down and saying, all right, it's very terse, this sutra literature, but each line is an aid to memory, and that was fascinating. But I had to dig down and say, okay, and then I had to go back and read it to say, I was wrong the first time I read it. It isn't the Roman numeral letters 108. He was looking them out for Sanskrit, which was super cool. So the old Vedic times and the Sanskrit letters that he translated for you. So for the next person,
exactly.
Just so you know, even though Arabic letters are super old and we all use them.
Where did they come from?
Yeah.
Exactly. They are Hindu Arabic numerals, actually. So yes.
Indo-Arabic, but I just wanted to say for other people out there, there are some really neat and very deep, long mouse holes that you can file the arrow down and go chasing after it and learn some really cool things. So I love that you brought that into this book, because a lot of us that are more Western tradition, everything, it was neat to have a reason to go look up things from another culture in another time.
Interconnected ecology, interconnected people, interconnected culture. Good Lord. Is this a thing you enjoy, Jeannie?
Well, it is, because there's also 108 stitches on a baseball. So
I didn't know that. That is so interesting.
Interconnected sports.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to look that up. That's so cool.
There is a magnificent line from the movie Bull Durham that Susan Sarandon delivers and says, did you know that, I'm into mysticism and metaphysics. For instance, there's 108 beads in a rosary. There's 108 stitches on a baseball. When I learned that, I gave Jesus a chance, but the Lord laid too much guilt on me. So when I ran across this 108 as being like this very exciting, tradition, I'm like, wait, it's real. 108 is everywhere.
It is. You will start seeing them everywhere now, actually. It's really kind of amazing.
Also, how many sun salutations you're supposed to do?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And at the beginning of the book, Bela actually does her routine, and part of her routine is 108 sun salutations, which takes a long time, by the way.
It does.
It makes you supple as a willow tree and tough as a rock, too.
That's why John and I gave up yoga. I mean, we tried it together. We really, really did. But the 108 sun salutations
took you out. Okay, yes, that's understandable. I suggest starting with one.
It really did. Well, in hockey, when say people, you look at the NHL and they're melting to their feet. I'm like, how do they do that? I'm like, well, how do you feel about sun salutations and burpees? And the new players look at me, I don't like them. I'm like, then you're not gonna
you're not gonna love this. Yeah.
All right. Now I liked that you did a device of using, everybody got to tell a little bit of their point of view in this story. When you were writing it, did you write each little vignette as it came through, or did you write it in chronological order, or did you just have, wow, this person has something to say, let me write that? How did you decide?
So with point of view, it was really important to me to be able to dig into these various people's psyches, especially Zed. I just felt like I needed to know what was happening behind him. So the decision to have multiple points of view was from the beginning, but I knew that it was going to be difficult. I just didn't know how difficult it was. As you know, first novel. So as I was trying to set up, who learned what at what point, and make sure that somebody who wasn't supposed to know something, didn't pretend that or didn't start saying that they did, that was very, very complicated for me. And that was probably one of the most difficult challenges of doing this. But I'm very happy at the end of the journey that this is the way it happened. I really felt like we needed to see inside these people. But as far as order goes, that was another problem because these things did not come to me in order. I felt like certain little revelations needed to happen, and sometimes I would write the revelation before like the opening scenes. Things kind of felt like they were downloading at points, and there were parts I will tell you that I realized, you know what, this is the next book, and I kind of had to set them aside. So it was a lot messier of a process. And I thought I fully expected to outline a novel and then write it. And it did not work that way at all.
You're a poet. How could you believe that inspiration would be linear?
That's a fair question, but my background was in law. I used to outline everything. In fact, I still do. I use spreadsheets for just about everything. So I really thought I'd be
There's more
organized.
in this world you envision than can be contained on a yellow pad.
You are so, so right.
And I just want to state for nothing that because many of my friends are lawyers. Matter of fact, a very weird statistical significance of my friends are lawyers. And I got to say, some of them are incredibly creative people. So the idea that, like, what lawyers have is the ability to sit down and read every word in the order they're written, and that is really hard for some people with executive dysfunctions. So,
It helps with the editing, though, I'll tell you, because at some point you do
Yeah.
have to sit and just do everything in order. But the creation part of it was different.
did you use a tool? Did you use Scrivener? Did you use spreadsheet? Tell us your methodology.
Let's talk process. No,
I
seriously,
used I used Scrivener, and I was so happy to have it because everything was happening out of order. I needed a way to move things around quickly in a very individual way. So that kind of became my writing spreadsheet, I would say. I'm not sure I could have done this otherwise. I think I would have had scraps of paper everywhere. I mean, I had those anyway because I was trying to map things. But if I had to also do like writings and try and get them together, I'm not sure this would have happened. So I thank the Scrivener gods. They are awesome.
Okay, Raymond out there is smiling
yeah,
somewhere.
Raymond is our Scrivener advocate, and it saved you from having to go by red thread every week and a new wall of your domicile disappearing under the cards and thread.
Exactly. And scaring my family. Yeah,
One of the
absolutely.
things I loved about this was I could so easily see the crime scene, where the red lanes go. So I
Right,
enjoyed
right.
that it was as complex as any thriller that way. And there's a mysterious woman. Is she a good guy? Is she a bad guy? What do we discover at the very beginning?
Good, good. And I was hoping people would feel that overlap between the two mysterious women. Are they the same? Are they different? That was something that initially they were a little bit more distinct, but I wanted them to have a little bit of haziness together. So I'm really glad that came through.
Well, it did because, I mean, for me, I always think everyone has a reason. So is there a reason that somebody could be both helping and hindering at the same time to make sure that it's like, I'm sure that's how my tomato plants think of me. Sure, she's a bringer of water. But she also comes along and rips off parts of it, and put it away. So
I definitely have people in my life like that, so I get it.
yeah, well, the constant gardener is the question of like, is she a gardener of a plot of her own? And so having her be two people is like, well, that's still kind of cool because she could have hindered here and helped here. And for me, it made it interesting because did not know. I mean, you gave enough clues to keep me interested in advancing through the plot, but I could not know until at the end when we got oh, there's another sister. That helped a lot understanding of what motivational speaking, but that whole family and families big and complicated was super
Yeah.
cool that way.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed that. And the idea was for both of them to also kind of tip a tiny bit into allegory all the way through, which I'm sure that you realized.
You named one of them Kali, so yeah.
That's right.
I mean, we're not savages here. We do understand.
Some of the basics, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a process question that's a little weird. Are you ready
Okay.
to turn this into a screenplay?
Ooh, that would be kind of exciting. People have been telling me that, wow, this kind of feels very cinematic. They could picture things. So, yeah, why not?
It is
Wow, that'd be
very
fun.
well written for that.
Hmm.
You're already fluent in multiple forms and obviously skilled at the novel. So why not put you into an area of discomfort where you can learn new things?
I love that idea. Let me give it a try. I've
I
gotten
would love
very
it if
used to being
Scrivener had.
uncomfortable.
I would love it if Scrivener had a button that you could just say, click, render as screenplay, and then
Ooh, I would love that.
and then it starts like need slug line, for this scene.
Right, right.
There's,
Unfortunately, maybe that's AI, but I don't want to go down that road at all.
yeah, there's a touch of the mysticism though that I sat here thinking, how would you film this? And part of it is the when during meditation and the when they're all meditating together and have the common vision and common feelings of connectedness. I'm like, I don't know how that would be represented because I don't think anybody's done it yet.
I think it's a fertile area for a
Yeah.
visionary person, maybe using AI. Oh, the horrible word. But it's not an AI thing. It's a how you it's along the line of you'd have to use symbolism and visual poetry to do it in some form.
Absolutely. I mean, that was where it all began because as I learned more and more about roots and how they connect to the fibers and how they connect to fungi, I was just like, this is really what everything is. Like, what if there's a character that could actually just look up and see all of that, and it looked the same or at least similar. So this is definitely where it began. And I am curious what a visual representation would be like. Yeah, I think it would take a certain kind of creativity.
Or a
Hopefully, we'll
log
get
of
to see
mush.
that.
I don't know this, the truth about the mycelium layer, how really there's just we're all really being run on the mushroom planet, and the sooner we accept that the mushrooms run the earth, the better. But then I
Right.
had, the fantasy novel version of it comes obviously if the fairy rings that it's the mushrooms that decide who goes to fairyland. The mushrooms
Ooh,
own everything.
I didn't know about that. Did you say the fairy ring?
It is a Western tradition in many of the fairy tales that a ring of toadstools, ring of mushroom circles can be portals to fairyland. And
Oh,
so
huh.
there was later somebody did a meme of saying, no, the mushrooms decide. It's not. and then I saw that meme just a couple months ago, and then I read your book. I'm like, yes, the mushrooms do decide.
The
So
mushrooms do decide. Yes.
there's a lovely article that just was in Bay Nature this last year about a gentleman at Berkeley. He may have transferred to UC Santa Cruz, who's getting his doctorate on the mycological networks in the redwood forests. And so to garner interest, he calls it the wood wide web.
I love that. I love that. I have heard that used, and it completely makes sense, right? It's connected to everything.
Yeah.
It's going to provide some answers. I love it.
Well, I first of all love the Wood Wide Web for being, and we can break it. We discovered that. So,
Yeah.
That's true. That's
yeah,
true.
I gotta say, I wasn't sure if I liked Bela at the very first. She was a character that you had living in a whole lot of denial. And one of the lessons that I walked away with that is after we said, everybody's maybe a little denial. And you made me change my mind about her, saying, hey, it's hard and we all can have emotional issues, but it's important to fix your shit as you grow up. And I liked that for a mental health lesson too, of the
Absolutely. Yeah.
we can all feel betrayed, we can all feel left, we can all feel like our parents let us down. And somewhere in there you just have to say they were human. And I just wanted to throw that psychological humanity out there of saying, Bela, yeah, she had a parent sent
I,
her away. She thought everybody was dead, etc. I didn't know that she took it as a betrayal to find out as they worked. And I'm like, these are unresolved things, and maybe we all need a little bit more therapy or just talking to each other about them. I think it's cool though. And I liked how you took her through an arc of getting it together.
I'm really glad that you saw that because I kind of didn't love Bela at the beginning. And there are times when I kind of don't like myself. And I feel like I've had to have such a growth journey to kind of come to terms with the fact that, okay, I'm not powerless. I do have some power. I have some agency. I wanted her to have that arc too. And I feel like we're all just starting from, I mean, I feel terribly, terribly flawed. And, Bela is terribly, terribly flawed in some ways, but there's possibility, right? There's possibility for her. There's possibility for all of us. I wanted that arc to be a big one. I didn't want her to be heroic and awesome and badass right from the beginning. But I wanted her to be able to maybe grow into that. So I do hope that came across. I'm glad. I'm actually kind of glad you said you didn't like her. I feel like then that was what the intention was it has manifested.
Awesome. Well, what you did is you actually reinstored for me as we hear the power of the heroine's journey. And it's been described a number of times that it's not just, the hero's journey is, boy goes out, finds a magic sword, is automatically better than everybody, and this is what happens
Right.
along the way. The heroine's journey is more about building family and found family and rediscovered family and doing things together as a group. So for those of you that love the heroine's journey as an arc, this was really good for that, because there is, found family, refound family, and then people that we have the opening, I'm sorry, what was his name? Chadi Darius?
That's right. Chadi Darius.
Darius, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Chadi Darius there, that was, one of the seven sages, means that he's going to be important. He's not central, he's not a main character, but he is one of the found family with emotional ties that you get later on in the piece. And that he's flawed, everybody's flawed, but they come together and become big, greater than their flaws to do something good together. And that kind of hope punk is exciting.
I love that you make that distinction between the hero and heroine's journey. And I've definitely been reading about this as well. And one just small piece I want to add to that is that before you can turn and bring your community together, you have to turn inward. And as you said, resolve your crap, resolve all of these things that are going on, let things go that are never, ever going to change, and sort of find that foundation and live with your foundation. And then you have this capability of reaching out and bringing in all of these flawed people, because we're all flawed, and doing something together. And you're right, that's a very different kind of journey than I am here, I've got my sword, I will now kick ass. So
You've actually also just reinforced for us all the power of that song, Let It Go, from Disney. Let it go. I mean, every little girl in the world has wanted to sing that song, and you really understand why. Like, you can't just hold on to everything all the time.
You're absolutely right. Disney wisdom, yes.
Disney. Oh God! Now we owe them money.
Yeah.
Fair use.
So you mentioned, or you hinted, that there might be more to this, and I kind of hope there is, because you left us in a position of hope, but it is a fragile hope. It's like the hope at the ending of episode 5 from the Star Wars series. It's like, okay, we have hope. We've found everybody that we need to make it better, but the Empire is still out there. So dare we hope for 109?
No, that's not the way mysticism works. You don't add one. Go to the next mystic number. And I have hope. I have faith. I don't have the book in my hands, but my hope is that this book takes off in whatever form it goes into the world in. I mean, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, there also needs to be, in this universe, in this, I want to say theme, but I really want to say mycological network, a young adult book to bring them in.
Oh, I love that idea too. Well, to answer your question, yes, it was always intended to be a next book, provided people asked for it, which I feel like you kind of did. So I'm going to go with it.
Let's get the next book. Oh, yeah, you got to ask with money. Hey, guys, buy the book, Ask with Money.
Ask with Money. Money talks. You know this in politics, so definitely go buy the book.
Oh, I love that. Great marketing. Thank you, guys. Yes, I wanted to tie up enough of the story that Bela's path forward became clear, that she would be able to step into this role of leadership. And of course, there are threads that are now, leading to the next book. And yes, my intention is to keep moving. I think I told you that, different things felt like they were downloading, and some things downloaded a little bit too early. So there are some building blocks that are currently in progress.
I got to admit, for me, I have a hope here. I need Kelly's redemption arc.
I will make a note of that.
It's sort of like she was one of the ones that, like Zed, was unable to really rise above the past, rise above this,
Right, exactly.
Did Zed need somebody to wrap their arms around them and say, hey, I love you. and it doesn't matter that your father will never say anything nice to you or approve of you. And your father was a dick. Fuck that guy.
Right. That's what he needs. He just needs to allow that to happen. And right now the walls are just so high and so thick. So
maybe there's an uncle somewhere that said, your dad was the worst of us. Don't mouth yourself, something that
that's
perspective.
right.
So that next level perspective, just saying for Kali's sake, I had empathy for her because she was one of the ones that was trapped in her past. And so I'm hoping that you do a book 2. We're going to have to read it because, throw me a bone there.
You got it. I'm a believer in redemption arcs for sure. I have to think about those pieces because there are obviously at least 2 people here that need a pathway forward. But I just don't know what shape it's going to take yet. I have a couple possibilities in mind. So
exactly. And you're actively working on it now, she said, hoping, her voice going up.
I am actively working on it.
Yay!
I am actively working on it now. I'm saying it. It's going to manifest now.
I just, if you wanted to throw us a bone, write us a small poem about Kali versus the mushrooms. We're there for you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, writing that down right now because that has to happen. Kali versus the mushrooms.
Because I'm aware, or for those that may not be aware, pregnant women in the world pray to Kali for a safe childbirth, correct? And
you know what?
I'm just saying,
I had not heard that they prayed to Kali for a safe childbirth. I'm gonna dig into that. Thank you for pointing out that you
it's
read
not
something
just
like that.
the blood and destruction. The whole point about it is,
It makes a pathway for the next steps. Exactly.
What messy,
exactly.
bloodier thing is there outside of childbirth? And then because that's one of the things that, again, it's your fault for sending me down the Matthew Sutra. So reading some of us, the only thing we got of Kali was, Indiana Jones. And I just wanted to throw out there that Kali has an important side and helps women out a lot. So Kali versus...
That's exactly right. Kali was intentionally named, and she is meant to not just be obviously a bad guy. She is meant to hold all that is on the feminine energy side of that discussion, I guess. And actually, now that you're telling me this, I feel like that redemption arc is really, really important because we need to show the other side of Kali. So thank you for this. This has been really helpful brainstorming. You guys should do this more often.
We're here for you. Always happy to chat.
I might call you back.
That's, what do people want? It's like, I think maybe we all in our heart want to know that there's redemption for anybody. That there is nothing so dark and vile about me that cannot be brought back to humanity. And I want everybody out there to know that there's nobody
so
unworthy
nice.
of living,
If there's someone unworthy of living, I am going to be that person is what happens in everyone's heart.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's the important message. And we also have to allow it to happen, right? We have to open something. We have to at least open one small pathway to let that possibility in. And sometimes people can't do that. At this stage of the book, Kali can't. So,
well, they say forgive and forget, and maybe she can't forget, but don't forget.
There are still ways to forgive. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Anyway, we will put links to the fascinating things we discussed during this episode on our website, which is www.writersdrinkingcoffee.com. Dheepa, thank you so much. This was awesome.
It was wonderful to be here. Great to talk to you both.
And everybody out there, rush on out and pick up 108 and Eco Thriller. We will have some links on the website. And please come take it out. You've been listening to Writers Drinking Coffee, a labor of love and enthusiasm put together by the hosts. Our main web magic is cast by Deirdre Schween, and our sound engineer is Ksenia Chernievskia, with backup by David Welsh and John Schmidt. Our intro and exit music is performed by Michael Engberg, who lives down under and runs Tin Can Music School. Our podcast sponsors are Jackal Designs, The Bean Scene, Arm Street, Far West Fungi, and wherever you like to take your notebook or laptop and just write. And hey, thanks for listening.